Hey everybody, I wanted to update you on how things are going with my YouTube channel because I have actually got quite a lot that I need to update you on, so I'm going to cut straight to the chase on this one. A couple of weeks ago I posted on the community page or post page of my main YouTube channel, which is still currently called Vix in Japan, just because I'm still considering what the channel will eventually end up being called, about the end of this channel. And anyway, so basically I put a public post up on Patreon which explained essentially where I'm up with my YouTube channel and just in fact really life in general at the moment. So now I put that out there for everybody to see because I needed to level with where I'm at honestly, and as you can see, the end result is that it didn't really stimulate any conversation at all, which is a bit of a shame, really. A few people acknowledged it with a like. I'm not sure why that would be a good thing, but anyway, whatever. But yeah, so a little bit sort of disheartening that, basically me laying on the line sort of where I'm up with things didn't stimulate any real interaction. But that's just the way things are these days, I guess. People, I'm guilty of it as well, act as a one-way mouthpiece, but it's sometimes hard to actually get that interaction going. But anyway, it is what it is. So this video is really to put my own voice to the things that I brought up in that Patreon post. So this is just an overview of what I need to go through. I know this looks like a really boring presentation, but I just want to summarise where I'm at, my YouTube figures over the years and also recently, and look at some of the issues that I've encountered that have perhaps affected my YouTube presence, shall we say, and where I am today, and why YouTube has, at least for this year, mattered quite a lot more to me than ever has done. And then really what the end result is and why I need to probably make some quite significant changes about how I do things, really, because I need to focus on building something for my future, essentially. So I'll just give you a bit of a summary to start with. So I moved back from Japan about 6 months ago now. I've been back in the UK, and my primary role here really is to look after my mum, who some of you may be aware was sadly diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in September of last year. I mean, amazingly, she's still doing pretty well overall, I think. So, I'm hugely grateful for that. And, I must admit, when I first heard the news last year, I didn't know for sure that she would still be with us, which is horrible to say it like that, but that's ultimately the truth. So it's wonderful that, we're still able to, have, well, my family's still got mum in our lives, kind of thing. But obviously it is hard work, obviously helping out my dad with all of the cooking and cleaning and all the other things that need doing. So that's essentially where I'm at. And in between that, I have been putting greater focus on YouTube, much more elaborate productions, higher quality overall production values, much greater research, which is why there have been, to date, 3 published Hudson Soft related history videos. There has been the PlayStation 30th video which I did. There has also been 2 full-length Amiga related documentaries that went out, and on top of that, every other week on my other channel, Saki Endo's Rubbish Heap, I've published a game review on that channel consistently for the past almost year and a half. Unfortunately this week, due to just burnout basically, I'm forgoing putting out a video this week because I feel that the quality won't be there, and I'd like to maintain that. So that's where I'm at, what I've been doing. I have been trying to find other work, but nothing has come about just yet. And the last thing of real note is that in December I will be taking my JLPT N2, that's my Japanese language proficiency test, N2 level again, because I failed it last year, because that may open some doors for me in the future. So that's basically what I've been doing. Now, to set the scene, when I started doing this YouTube channel, it was very much just as a hobby thing for me to talk about with like-minded people about the stuff that I'm interested in. That has become a little bit subverted. I don't know if that's the right word this year, because primarily what I earn through YouTube and by extension Patreon and associated merchandise sales is how I make my living, shall we say, because I haven't had much choice, because one, a part-time job has not come about that would fit in with all of my other responsibilities as of yet, and yeah, that's where I'm at basically. So I took the decision that it was more important for me to be with family during this time. But naturally, obviously, I do need to make some income, because with putting my vehicle back on the road with the hope that obviously I could use it for work. The insurance is incredibly expensive on that, because essentially I'm starting from zero again with, I've got no sort of claims bonus to use or anything like that. So, that's about £100 every month. I still have some stuff in storage. I've been gradually thinning that out. I've had to resort to selling some of my less required Amiga stuff. So I put a post up on Patreon about that recently, where a few things have sold on there, and recently at the Southwest Amiga group meeting. And there are other expenses like Photoshop licenses, Clip Studio Paint, and I still managed to support a couple of other podcasts, Amigos and Pixel Gaiden. So, and that's pretty much me done. And of course, obviously, if there is anything left over, I can put a bit of petrol in the van and occasionally get out to skate and stuff. So that's kind of my life as it stands at the moment. And from that, hopefully, you can see that for me, in the absence of other income sources, YouTube has been my best chance of trying to at least improve my income this year. So let's go on to the analytics of the last 28 days, approximately last month, to give you a bit of an idea of the reality of what my YouTube channel itself brings in. And you can see that I've added 41 subscribers, which is actually pretty good for me, which means that I brought in an overall revenue of £4.21 so far in the last 28 days. So it's not a living that I can live off alone, YouTube, far from it. It's those kinds of levels are very much, pocket change kind of thing. And if you're running it on a very much hobbyist basis as something that you do in addition to a full-time job, then, that would be fine, because everything is a bonus in my book when you're doing it like that. Unfortunately, my situation dictates that I've had to, as I explained, try and see if by putting in the extra effort and so forth would result in a sizable uptick in my income, and basically no, not at all. Over the last year, this is the last 365 days, so this includes 6 months of me living in Japan, but broadly covers the last year or so where I've been uploading higher effort videos. My total revenue from YouTube was £50.42, and I've added nearly 500 subscribers in the last year, which is about right, because every year I've roughly gained about 500 subscribers. I'm now just above the 3,500 level, because next year I'm coming up to my 8th year of having a YouTube channel. So that gives you an idea of overall what my YouTube channel actually earns itself. Obviously that isn't my only income, because I do have Patreon and I do produce merchandise, so which is why I do put out that I have a Patreon page or system, and likewise that my merchandise, my own designs like this hoodie and many others are available on Amazon, Redbubble and TeePublic, because I can link the TeePublic store directly to the YouTube channel. So that gives you an overview of what a channel like mine actually brings in. And I don't think I need to really explain, but unfortunately £50 over the course of a year is not enough for me to live on. So my most successful video this year was the My 90s with the Amiga video, which has clocked in over 6,600 views since it was put out. That gained me almost 80 extra subscribers, but you can see that the overall revenue earned from that video was £2.76. Yeah, so I will go into some of the impacts that these figures have on the amount of time that's actually spent on producing these videos in a moment. So that was my most successful video this year in terms of views and overall. I don't know if that's the best in revenue, but it gives you some idea anyway of what my most watched videos generally do. And then my most recent video that went out at the start of this week was my third part in the Bye Bye Hudson Soft series. That one has, according to this, attained about 346 views in the 3 to 4 days that it's been online. It's added some subscribers as a result, and so far is roughly tracking average on the performance of my videos, which is, on average, my videos get to 300 to 500 views, and that one has earned me 88 pence so far. So again, we're not talking about big figures here. So I think the next slide is actually looking at things like the merchandise and Patreon. So I need to point out why these figures don't add up, for me to really continue producing YouTube videos as it stands in the what's the word, frequency that I have been doing. The Hudson Soft ones is a really good example of this, because that series is deeply interesting to me. I know that I run an incredibly niche YouTube channel. I mean, gaming is a very big thing, but you're already taking a slice off of that potential audience by predominantly focusing on retro gaming. And then when I'm focusing more on the Japanese side of things, shall we say, that obviously reduces that audience further. And then you've got to factor in the fact that I do have a certain style. There are certain things that I won't do with thumbnails. I'm not going to put provocative thumbnails out there, both visually and texturally, as shall we say. I'm not in the business of repeating content, and I'm not particularly interested in creating content that has been done to death kind of things. So I'm not in any hurry to put out a Super Mario Brothers review or anything like that. I'm always trying to find something that both personally interests me and where I can add something to the conversation. So the Hudson Soft videos is a really good example of that, because it ticks lots of boxes for me, because one, it gives me extensive chance to improve my Japanese skills, because this is a series that is not based off of me reading the English language Wikipedia page, nor indeed the Japanese Wikipedia page. This is all very much a research-based project where I look at books and magazines, which requires me getting them from Japan. I might already have had some from my time living there, and just generally reading across blogs and listening to videos and all sorts of things. And there's all this synthesis of this information which goes into making each video. And I've not done time and motion on how much time is spent on the research and stuff, but for each video, it's way in excess of earning 88 pence out of it, kind of thing. Now, I know that's not the final figure, because we do have to factor in the fact that there is Patreon, so that, naturally is from people who feel that what I'm doing is, worth supporting, kind of thing. So that obviously I do take into account. But in terms of whether that level of dedication, shall we say, of putting out a video has seen, like a relative increase in income, shall we say, it really hasn't at all. And that is a shame. And, and I can voice my frustrations about some of this kind of thing, that, I see repeatedly the same content producers basically putting out the same content, racking in thousands, if not tens of thousands of views. I see people, using statements in their thumbnails that don't match up with what's actually in the video at all, rage baiting, clickbait, that kind of stuff, which I find is embarrassing that, as a human race, that we've allowed ourselves to descend to that kind of, level of interaction. But it is what it is, just got to take the world as it comes, kind of thing. And of course, there are many other things that I could comment on that I feel, I'm not going to mention them by name, but I will say that, there are certain things that you can put in a thumbnail that will draw a certain audience, shall we say, and more so than showing just a photograph of some video games and that kind of stuff. So overall, the higher quality of videos as I see them with much greater research hasn't actually resulted in any real net gain for the channel, sadly. It is what it is. So I just want to go back to my summary here, my overview rather. So I want to talk about collaboration issues and also what succeeds on YouTube. So I've kind of already done that actually. What succeeds on YouTube, obviously mainstream stuff that piques the interest, and that can include rage bait and clickbait, but also some people have a very good finger on the pulse of what actually touches a nerve. I don't think I'm particularly good at that, if I'm honest. And all the other things. So I've discussed what succeeds on YouTube, I think. I think also, just as an addendum to what succeeds on YouTube, because I can cross that one off, is that I think there is definitely two things that tend to work well with retro gaming content. There's the stuff which is much more about hardware and repair related stuff that I think garners a lot of interest from my observation over the years. And the second thing is obviously that mainstream retro gaming thing. So, if you're predisposed to talking about hidden gems and sort of mainstream NES stuff, Super Nintendo stuff and all the rest of it, PlayStation and so forth, you can do very well. And I'm not saying that it doesn't deserve it. A lot of it does deserve it. But I have to do something that interests me. And in order for me to succeed with my Japanese skills, which I'll talk about at the end, I've had to try and think, well, between the time that I have dedicate towards my responsibilities here as a carer versus what time I have left available to make an income and also further my Japanese, doing subjects that interest me that require extensive Japanese research makes a lot of sense. And it does prove its worth, because when I do put out the fourth part of the Hudson Soft series, vanishingly few people will watch it in the grand scheme of things, but I think the content that I've surfaced there is some of the research that I can be proudest of, because I have done a lot of backtracking through not just the Japanese sources, but backtracking through the contemporary English language sources to try and discover where certain things that have now become fact originally came from. And this is not to prove people wrong, but more just for my own sense of like, yeah, I've got a reference for that. I can see where that's come from. If we're talking specifically about the PCFX for a moment, I don't want to get too much in the weeds about this, but a lot of people who know about that system will say its prototype was called Tetsujin or Iron Man, but finding an actual source for that is very difficult. Likewise, you have to look at where just plainly some information is wrong. Like to this day, on the English language PCFX website, Wikipedia page, it says that Famitsu magazine, Japanese games magazine, said when reviewing all of the 5th generation consoles worth a damn at the time, so your Sega Saturn, PlayStation, 3DO, PCFX, and gosh, I can't remember the other one now. They might have looked at the PC Engine CD-ROM system as well, and maybe Mega CD as well. It says on the English language PCFX page that the PCFX was rated higher than the PlayStation. That is categorically incorrect, because whoever wrote that misunderstood the original article, because the article is actually a review of the abilities and quality of audio CD-ROM playback. So if you're listening to an album or some form of music CD, what the cross-reviewers felt of the respective system's playback quality. It's nothing about the overall system. So on English language Wikipedia, the PCFX is apparently rated, or contemporaneously was rated higher than the PlayStation. That's incorrect. So there are some things where obviously I've gone in to well, is that actually the case? And look at the sources, bring them in from Japan if necessary as a physical magazine. And then hopefully what I can do is produce a much more accurate history video, because if I'm setting out to make a history documentary, I should really be trying to make sure that my facts are correct rather than blithely copying them, shall we say. So anyway, I want to talk about collaboration issues now. A lot of people have suggested to me in the past about doing collaborations, and there have been a handful some years ago now, which in a small way happened. But what I found when I moved to Japan is that those stopped dead overnight. I did do quite a lot of work to try and come up with ideas for collaborations, some of which, there was quite a lot of discussion around, but didn't go anywhere with those creators, and some which maybe politely they were saying, actually, that's not for me, but I wouldn't hear anything back about it, kind of thing. So I kind of stepped back from trying to seek collaborations and stuff, because I felt that I was putting a lot of energy into it, but not actually finding much was coming back. And I don't know why that is. It could be that my ideas weren't really things that worked, and that's fair enough. I accept that not every idea I have is a good one. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a shame that I haven't been able to sort of, encourage those collaborations, shall we say. So I've kind of, dedicated my time to producing stuff by myself, shall we say. And then that leads on to the effect of living in Japan, because that did have a huge impact on my YouTube channel's trajectory. Up until the point of when I moved, things were going really quite well. And then because of the time zone difference, I just disappeared off of the face of the earth, essentially. And a lot of that viewership never came back. And on a personal level, it's a bit of a shame, because I felt that I'd, created quite a lot of friendships and stuff in the community, that I thought were beyond just sort of, YouTube kind of social media context kind of friendship, shall we say. But I don't know that really was the case, to be honest with you, because, as I no longer appeared on social media, and of course then I actually withdrew myself because, it was affecting me in a great way, and in more ways than perhaps more people realise. I felt that this is obviously having a very negative impact on me. Best to come away from it, and then, maintain the friendships with people who, do stay in touch through emails and DMs on Patreon and that kind of stuff, and invest in that kind of thing. And then that has been better for me, but it obviously does have a promotional effect on what I do. Yeah, that had a huge impact on me. And as I put out in an update that went out 5 years ago, when it became very clear that I needed to put much more effort and focus into me learning Japanese to have any quality of life over there, I had to make the hard decision that I had to focus on topics that would allow me to kill two birds with one stone. And the frank thing was I never set out to create a YouTube channel that was Amiga orientated, despite what some people suggested to me, that I was no longer making the content that people wanted, and I should go back to doing that stuff. Well, I never really set out to be just about that. It's just a coincidence that was the stuff that started getting traction. But, my interests lie in other things, and maybe that's just me being a bit pig-headed, and, maybe I should just do what the audience was receptive to, but I just didn't want to be limited by that. And the fact is that I knew what my situation was in Japan. I knew that I had to spend hours on improving and studying my Japanese, and I wasn't going to be able to do that if I was just chasing YouTube. And I didn't really need to chase YouTube so much then, even though I was, as always, in a bit of a dire financial situation, because at least I did have a day job. I don't currently have that at the moment due to all the reasons I outlined at the top of this recording. Anyway, so that had a huge impact on the channel, and it's never really recovered, I don't think. And I think, if I'm honest, I think the die is cast. I think I've put so much of myself, especially in the last year, into this channel. I've put so much of myself into this channel in general over the last 8 years. And I don't know what else I can really do to change it, because I think too much of whether things succeed or, don't do so well, or fail, if we're going to use that word, is down to chance. And I can't keep on, rolling the dice and hoping for the best. And, a lot of people say to me, oh, you shouldn't feel disappointed. And on one level, when I do a huge amount of research around a subject like the Hudson Soft stuff, the Amiga related videos that I've done recently, yes, I could have done that all in my own time, and I will continue doing that in my own time, but I wouldn't have had all the time that it takes creating the videos and so forth. And I'm never going to stop researching about these topics because I am interested, and that's what I'm into, kind of thing. But maybe I wouldn't, spend a month or so working on a video, not obviously solidly, but in between all of my other responsibilities, only to, generate £1. So I have to be a bit hard-headed about this. Looking at some other things, merchandise. So this is the last 3 months on Amazon, where I sell hoodies and t-shirts, and on average I've made about £14 over the last each month for the last 3 months. That has ticked up this year. I've managed to resurrect that from being nearly nothing for the longest time, and it's now doing a bit better. On Redbubble, which I can sell to internationally virtually, £7 for the course of the year to date. And on Patreon, it's my Patreon members that really bail me out financially, if I'm honest, £203 a month, which is the thing that makes this all possible. But once I've minus £100 for car insurance, £45 for the storage of belongings, £15 now for Adobe licenses. I can't remember what it is for Clip Studio. It might be about £5. Plus there's obviously a couple of Patreon memberships that I maintain for a couple of podcasts that I really want to support come what may. And then obviously there are a few other expenses that I've probably forgotten off the top of my head, but they're there nonetheless. It doesn't leave a lot left over at the end of the month. So I think I'm probably bringing in, on average, about £220 or so a month. It's not a living that I can live off long term, obviously, because there is going to come a time where I need to have my own place, and all the bills and so forth that entails. And at the age of 42, I do naturally think about my future in terms of pension and what I'm going to do when I get old. And at the moment, I don't have a career. And I can't keep on sinking all of this time into YouTube if it's not working. I can carry on doing it as a hobbyist thing where maybe a video comes out every 3 to 4 months, like one of these well-researched ones, but trying to attain that every month, plus the 2 reviews on Saki Endo's Rubbish Heap. I'm just not seeing that this is going to work. And it's just, after a run of things where I just work so hard at them, but they're just not, it's just not working. And I do look at myself, I could look at future series, the manga that I have drawn, 100 pages of. I know that obviously some of those are in progress of being redrawn and so forth. But, I've submitted to competitions and to publishers, and I've got no response except from one publisher which suggested that stay myself but change your style, which I didn't know what to make of that. I mean, maybe it's good advice. Maybe changing my style is the thing to do. I don't know. But it's hard, feeling like you're putting so much effort into things and just not seeing the growth. I mean, like on Patreon, that figure there is only what it is because of the amazing generosity of the patrons that have been with me for so long now, because the actual growth on Patreon has been very minimal this year. I think I might have gained a net 1 or 2 subscribers overall, and it is massively appreciated. I don't take any of it for granted because I would be really in the shit without it, to be honest with you, and I don't know what I would do if I'm honest. So but it is what it is, and so that brings me back to just talking full screen, I suppose, because I want to wrap this up because it's nearly been half an hour talking now. I have to make decisions, hard-headed decisions that are for my future. And realistically, I just don't really see YouTube ever really working out in any real big way for me. I just guess that the audience has spoken. If people were really into what I'm doing, I would have massive growth on those figures, relative to my standards. I would get way more views and the income would be showing some kind of improvement. But given that for the last 5 years, or however long my channel's been monetized, I've averaged anywhere between £2 to £3 a month income on YouTube, and that hasn't really changed at all. I have to face facts that this is not really going anywhere, is it? So really, unless some miracle happens by the end of the year, where hopefully I'm going to get out 2 more videos before the end of the year on the main VIX channel, if you will, I will take a judgment then. And then if it means that I go to sort of doing it as a hobbyist thing, where maybe I get a video every 3 months or so, much in the same vein of what I'm doing at the moment, I don't really foresee how I would change what I would do, because I would maintain doing what I'm interested in. But at least that would then, give me a lot of time back to, focus on making sure that I'm studying Japanese as hard as I can to hopefully get a job using it, which might begin to build me a bit of an income for the future. Or maybe it's focusing more on my illustration work and really trying to double down on that, whether it's merchandise and designs around that. I mean, that's showing potentially more signs that could work for me in the longer term. I can't push the boulder up the hill, so that's where I'm at, really. The only thing I really can say is, as I've said all along, is that if you do enjoy what I do, for free, one of the things that you can do is that you can like the videos. Another thing you can do is you can leave a comment on the videos. That would really help, because I get a lot of thumbs up on the videos, but maybe, the comments these days, it's quite slow. I believe that those kinds of things help YouTube's algorithm potentially evaluate whether something's worth boosting or not. And the other thing is that if you do really appreciate what I do and you want to see me continue doing it, then yeah, I guess Patreon is the thing, isn't it? I hate to say it, but it is. If you see value in what I'm doing, that's where you can make a difference, shall we say. I do love reading the comments, and I know that a lot of people are in very similar financial situations to myself. But if you do have the means to maybe support me from £2 a month, something to consider, I suppose. Or maybe you can have a look at the merch that maybe there's something there that you might like, perhaps. What else can I really say, to be honest with you? Share it on your social media. That's something that if you do enjoy what I do, if you've got Facebook or you've got X, I mean, I'm no longer on that because I profoundly disagree with what's happening on over there. Blue Sky, Instagram, please let me know. That would obviously be a good way of potentially getting the word out there about what I'm doing. But really, yeah, that's where I'm at with things, to be honest with you. It's frustrating. I can't deny it. Sometimes it's exhausting. Just, like the other day I had one of those awful dreams where I dreamt that I'd put out the latest Hudson video and it had got over 5,000 views, and then my brain tricked me into thinking like, oh, it can't be true. And I actually dreamt that I woke up and I checked my phone and it was true. I had actually put out a successful, by my standards, video kind of thing. And of course I actually did wake up and it is what it is kind of thing. So it can be a little bit crushing at times, but thankfully I do have a very strong base on Patreon that, that does keep things bobbing along, shall we say. And I don't really want to elaborate anymore, really. I just don't know really what else to say. I've always tried to do this with some degree of integrity. I know a few years ago when my laptop went wrong, no way did I expect that video to generate such an interest that people actually contributed to the extent that I was able to replace the laptop much quicker than I expected. That's not what I'm making this video about. I just want to be open and honest about where I'm at with these things, really. And it's a shame, but it is what it is. I just don't think I have the personality or the connections or the drive to put myself out on social media and everything else that goes with it, because obviously I think anybody who's watched this channel will know that it's not something I particularly agree with on an ethical level. You know, cut my nose to spite my face as usual. But I just don't think that I have the broad mainstream appeal, really, and, you know, the figures and all the rest of it reflect that, really. So, but I'll get these last couple of videos out before the year's end, all being well, and Saki Endo's Rubbish Heap won't be going anywhere. I'll be carrying on with that because it is a lot of fun doing that one. And that's it, really. So, yeah. We'll go from there, I suppose. Thanks for watching if you made it all the way through.